Starting this Saturday night, July 17th, before sundown, and until the sunset on Sunday, July 18th, is going to be the day of Tisha beAv, which is known as the saddest day of the Jewish calendar. It's a day of our mourning, but it's also a day of our hope. Let's take a look at the Jewish calendar. We are now in the beginning of the fifth month of the Jewish year, called the month of Av, and we are getting close to the ninth day of Av, Tisha beAv in Hebrew. Let's go back in time and see what happened on the day, starting when our ancestors left Egypt to the modern era. Tisha beAv, Hebrew year 2449, which corresponds to the year 1311 BCE. It's been over a year since the Jews left Egypt after 210 years of slavery. They've already received the Torah on Mount Sinai. They built the Mishkan, the holy tent. They were now close to the land of Israel, ready to enter the promised land. And at that time, all men, except for the men from the tribe of Levi, came to Moses and insisted on sending the spies to the land before them for an investigation. It was a moment of doubt, distrust in God. Day and night, the God's cloud and the Ark of Covenant protected the nation and showed them the way. Nevertheless, the 12 spies were sent out and spent 40 days in the Holy Land. When they returned, 10 of them gave a negative report. They said that they saw frightening giants and fortified cities which would be impossible to conquer. The people lost heart and cried all night. That night was the night of Tisha beAv. That was the time when we chose to distance ourselves from God, and God let us experience the pain of being distant from Him. On that Tisha beAv, God decreed that the nation will wander in the desert for 40 years. No man who was between the ages of 20 and 60 at the time and believed the spies will enter the Holy Land. They will all die in the desert. Only their children will enter the land of Israel. The decree did not affect the women. They were always loyal to God and did not lose their trust in Him, as well as the men of the tribe of Levi, all children younger than 20 and the elders older than 60, and 2 spies, Yahashua and Caleb, who did not join the other 10 spies in their bad report. Starting from this first Tisha beAv, when the decree was issued, the date was fixed as a time of mourning for the Jews. That's what happened on Tisha beAv every year while the Jewish people were wandering in the desert. At night, those who were decreed to die in the desert dug their own graves. Those who passed the age of 60 that year died during the night, about 15,000 men each year. After the 40 years of wandering in the desert, the Jews entered the land of Israel. They brought the Mishkan, the holy tent, with them. The tent was moved a few times until the first permanent Bet HaMikdash, the first temple, was built by King Solomon in the year 833 BCE. The first temple stood for 410 years. After the years of serving God, enjoying prosperity, the Jews chose to distance themselves from the Creator again. They failed to fulfill the God's will. As a result, the first temple was destroyed during the reign of King Tzidkiyahu in 423 BCE on Tisha beAv by King Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian tyrant. Our sages taught that the first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed because of 3 sins which Israel committed in that generation: adultery, forbidden relationships, and murder. Only when 7 successive high courts had worshipped idols, when the people had desecrated Shabbat, stopped children from learning Torah, ceased the recital of the Shema in the morning and at night, was the land destroyed. 100,000 of Jews were killed. The rest were taken to an exile to Babylon and Persia. That exile would last for 70 years. The Second Temple was completed in 349 BCE by the Jews who returned from the exile. In the year 19 BCE, King Herod completed dramatic renovations to the temple. The Second Temple stood for 420 years, as the Jews once again failed to fulfill God's will and distanced themselves from the Creator. The enemies destroyed the Second Temple. The Second Beit HaMikdash was primarily destroyed because of baseless hatred among the Jewish people. It was set on fire and ruined in 70 CE on the same day, Tisha beAv, by the Romans, under the leadership of the commander and later Emperor Titus. Millions of Jews died as a result of the war, exiled to all parts of the Roman Empire, sold as slaves, killed and tortured, and gladiatorial games and pagan celebrations. On Tisha beAv 132 CE, after 9 years of the Third Jewish-Roman War, the Bar Kokhba revolt was crushed by the Roman Emperor Hadrian. The fortress of Beitar, the Jews' last stand against the Romans, was captured. Hundreds of thousands of Jews were slaughtered by Romans. Rivers of the Jewish blood flowed for miles to the sea, and the Romans were able to fertilize their fields for 7 years using their victims' blood. Jewish bodies were not buried, but were used as fences for fields. 1 year later, on the same day, Tisha beAv, the Temple Mount and its surroundings were plowed under the Roman general Turnus Rufus. Jerusalem was rebuilt as pagan city, renamed Aelia Capitolina, and access was forbidden to Jews. Tisha beAv 1095. The First Crusade, declared by Pope Urban II, started, bringing death and destructions to many Jewish communities in Western and Central Europe. Tisha beAv 1290. Expulsion of Jews from England started, accompanied by pogroms and confiscation of books and property. Tisha beAv 1492. On that day, the Spanish Inquisition culminated with the expulsion of Jews from Spain. Tisha beAv 1914. The First World War began. German resentment from the war set the stage for the Holocaust. Tisha beAv 1942. The mass deportation of Jews from the Warsaw Ghetto to the Treblinka concentration camp began. When we choose to distance ourselves from God, God let us experience the pain of being distant from Him. How we observe Tisha beAv. There are 5 things forbidden on Tisha beAv: eating and drinking, washing oneself, anointing oneself with oil, wearing leather shoes, marital relations. This year, Tisha beAv begins at sundown on Saturday, July 17th and lasts through the sunset on Sunday, July 18th. The story is told that Napoleon once passed the entrance to a synagogue in Paris on Tisha beAv. Seeing the Jews sitting on the floor, weeping and reciting lamentations over the destruction of the temples and the loss of the land, as if it had occurred in the very recent past, he stood in amazement and declared, "I swear that these people shall have a successful future in their own land. Where have we ever seen another nation that has observed mourning for almost 2,000 years, never giving up hope?" It's said that one who mourns over Jerusalem will merit to see her happiness. Both temples were destroyed as Jews failed to fulfill God's will and chose to distance themselves from Him. After the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, our current exile began. Yet we know that it's out of the bad itself that the good sprouts. Many observe the custom of washing their floors and cleaning their houses after midday on Tisha beAv, in anticipation of the redemption which we all await. Moreover, it's a tradition that the Mashiach will be born, or has already been born, on Tisha beAv. The third Beit HaMikdash will then be built and would never be destroyed. May it happen soon in our days.